I'm in the woods because the thrushes are out. How do I know that? Because one woke me up this morning. If you've ever wondered what's skulking around in the woods, this is the video for you. Let's decode every thrush in North America.
All right, we've got some interesting thrushes, and on the surface, they all kind of look alike, where they've got a dark back, whether it's brown or red, and then it's got a white belly with spots. All right, but there's some subtle differences that I'm going to teach you. When I see thrushes, no matter which type, they're typically always on the ground. And they're usually a little ways away in the forest, and they're looking at me, right? They've seen me before I see them, and then they scurry off. And usually they don't fly way up high into a tree. They'll either scurry off by walking, or they'll do a little flight to a nearby low branch. These aren't birds that you'll see way up high in the canopies. They're ones that like to stay low. They like to stay on the forest floor. They're the ones that are scratching some dense vegetation. These are the birds that are skulky, right? And they make the most eerie calls. I'm going to start with the wood thrush. East, it's the most common thrush we have, but it's also, in my opinion, the prettiest, right? Look at that belly. You'll see these dots, and these are the crispest and the cleanest dots are on a wood thrush. So if you see here where the dots go all the way down from the throat to the tail. Maybe there's a little gap here at the bottom of the belly, but you'll see here, and they don't fade. The color doesn't fade. The color of a dot down here at the bottom is the same brightness as up here. So they've got the clean dots, the beautiful white belly, and it's got this reddish brown back. Okay? This is a wood thrush. It's got a white eye ring. That's what we call when there's a white feathers all the way around the eyeball. Right? And I've noticed here that it says it has a declining population. And well, what's causing the decline? Well, it's the brown-headed cowbird. This is the bird that lays its eggs on other people's nests. So it's called a brood parasite, meaning it takes over another brood. When the mama thrush isn't looking, it will go lay its egg in the thrush nest. And then the mama thrush has no idea that she used to have 3 eggs, now she's got 4 to take care of. And when it hatches, those cowbirds are big and they're hungry, and the mama thrush adopts it as its own and takes all of her effort to raise the cowbird, and the wood thrush babies suffer because of it, and less of them survive. So the wood thrush nests are easy to find because they're typically in the understory, and a cowbird will be looking out for a thrush and listening for it to go lay its eggs in their nest. Easy to find. So, declining population. Now, the sound that a wood thrush make is beautiful. And it's all the thrushes are kind of an eerie sound in the woods. But I think of it as a Frito-Lay, like the potato chips. Like when I go to the woods, I want to bring my Frito-Lays. Let me play you a song there. There we go. That's the wood thrush. All right, the next thrush is the Veery. All right, and you can see from the map here, it breeds all along the northern U.S., southern Canada border, but it migrates through most of the eastern U.S. So it looks like it can be found in most all the states in Canada except for just the extreme far southwest corner. And it's got a lighter red. It's kind of a uniform light brown, reddish brown color, which is consistent from the head to the tail. You see that? The color doesn't change much. And it's got this white belly like the wood thrush, but where'd the dots go? right? There's no longer these beautiful dark dots all the way down the chest and into the tail, right? These dots are really located just at the neck, and they're smudgy, right? They're not clean and crisp and singled out. They're kind of all bunched together, and then they fade and disappear. Okay, the Veery. Now, it migrates really far. It lives in the winter time way down here in South America. So it doesn't stick around North America. Where some other thrushes, specifically the hermit thrush, you can find in the wintertime, not so much the Veery. Now, the way I remember the Veery name is I call it the eerie Veery, because the sound it makes is quite crazy. Unlike the other thrushes, you know how, like, I don't know, back in the 50 years ago, when someone said if you play the Beatles record backwards, it makes a weird sound and there's some secret messages. That's how I feel the Veery call sounds like. It sounds like other thrush calls played backwards. All right, and it sounds like there's 6 thrushes playing a song at the same time, but just offset by just a tiny little bit. There's like an instant echo. All right, I'll play a song and you'll hear that. Here we go. That's crazy. The eerie Veery. Here we are. All right, the next is the Swainson's thrush. And you see from the map here, it's a very widespread thrush. But now it's a little different color. It looks like it's got some almost like some yellow paint that got dripped on its head and ran down its head over its face and onto the top half of its belly. We call that a buffy wash, right? Kind of a light yellow cream over the top half of the bird. All right. It's got these white spots on its chest like the wood thrush, but they're not, crisp. They're not clean dots that go all the way down. They're basically concentrated at the throat and the chest and stop really here at the belly. But what you'll want to remember with the Swainson's thrush is that yellow wash over its face and this eye ring. You can see this eye ring through the woods, through the thicket. That's what sticks out at you when you see this eye ring on a thrush, this buffy eye ring. It's a Swainson's. Its back it's a uniform brown, so a consistent brown all the way down. Kind of plain brown, not really a reddish brown, but a plain brown, but with that buffy eye ring. Now, the sound it makes, I call it the swirling Swainson's, because it sounds like a tornado getting higher and higher and higher. It's a swirling sound, and there's kind of an illusion when it's in the woods because it has that swirling sound. It's hard to pinpoint exactly where it's coming from. And if there's a couple in the area and they're responding to each other's calls, you almost feel like you're in, Dorothy's tornado going to Oz. Let me play you its sound. All right, here we go. Let's see if we can hear this. It's rotating, swirling up. Higher and higher and higher. Round and around she goes. Swirling Swainson. The next is the Hermit Thrush. So I've alluded to this one already. It's also a widespread thrush. It breeds here all across Canada and into the higher elevations of the Midwest or the Rocky Mountains. And it will stick around all year. It's got a kind of a changing color look. It's got a brown back and head, and it shifts to a red tail. And when you see that in person, you'll say, aha, what is the color changing thrush? It's the hermit thrush, right? So when I think of a hermit, I think of a kind of an old man living by himself in the woods. Same with a hermit thrush. They're usually by themselves, and sometimes it's in the dead of winter. There's one thrush in the woods. It's not making a sound, but I remember it's the old man in the woods. That's the hermit thrush. And look for that red tail on the brown back. It's got a similar, right? A white belly with dots, like the wood thrush, but the dots aren't crisp and clean, right? They're kind of running together, and they kind of fade. They get dark, and then they fade out as you go down. So that's how you tell it's not a wood thrush, right? Not really like the Swainsons, right? There's a little bit of an eye ring, but what you're looking for is that tail. Now its call is an echo. So it goes, oh, and then it has a phrase that it repeats. So like, oh, one, and then, oh, two, oh, three. It repeats the second thing in its phrase. So I think of it as the hermit, the old guy in the woods, is talking to himself. He's saying it, and then he repeats it back to himself as an echo. Let me play the call. All right, here we go. Oh, one. Oh, two. Oh, three. Oh, four. See, it's just a repeat. Oh, six. Oh, seven. You get the idea. So every few seconds, there's a phrase with a whistle and then two repeating things. He's echoing to himself. He's a loner. He's a hermit. The hermit thrush. We've got two more, and they're very similar. The gray-cheeked thrush and the Bicknell's thrush. I'm going to start with the gray-cheeked. All right. It's kind of the plainest thrush out there. It's an eastern bird here. You kind of see it breeds way up north, super up north. But then it migrates all throughout the eastern U.S. and the Midwest. It's a plain bird, right? It gets its name from the gray kind of wash over its cheek and its back. So you see this here is kind of that back and tail is kind of an olive green, and it's got this gray bit here on its wings and on its cheek. So it's kind of an unremarkable thrush. It's got the dots on its belly, but not like the wood thrush, right? The dots here aren't crisp and clean. They fade out by its mid-tummy. And there's absolutely zero eye ring here, where the Swainsons will have the buffy wash and the buffy eye ring. Not here on the gray-cheeked. It's plain. It's got a yellow base to its bill, which is pronounced here on the gray-cheeked, but just kind of plain. I see them more in the fall migration than the spring migration. That's probably just because of where I'm at in the east. But sometimes birds have a circular migration where they'll go up one coast and back on another coast. So in your area, I would look at eBird reports to see where and how often the gray-cheeked thrushes come into your area. It might be spring, it might be fall. So let me just show you the difference between this and the Bicknell's thrush. Here it is. Well, it's hard to tell the difference because it's kind of plain overall. It's got that solid color here. It's got the kind of the grayish white belly with the dots that disappear. It's got that yellow to the lower bill and no eye ring. So actually what people say is it's impossible to tell these two species apart. Just don't try. Unless you can hear the bird. But when they're migrating, most birds, especially thrushes, aren't saying anything. They're not on their territory. They're not singing yet. They're just migrating through. And you can see the path here of the Bicknell's thrush is on the extreme east coast going up. So the way to tell the difference is you got to hear them, but to hear them, you got to find where they're on their breeding territory. And where that is way up here in the northeast. So Vermont, New Hampshire, and bits of Maine. But they like to breed at the top of mountains. So you need to find a breeding area and get up way up high in the early mornings when they're most vocal. So the best way to do that is they have tours set up just for Bicknell's thrushes, for extreme birders that want to make sure they've got a Bicknell's on their list. So you can find a tour that gets up, 2 in the morning, hikes to the top of a mountain to get the sunrise and the Bicknell's thrushes. There you go. Those are all the thrushes of North America.
Well, there's your crash course on thrushes. If you're still only hearing robins in the woods, hit the rewind button, watch it again. But if things are clicking now, hit the like, hit the subscribe, because the forest is full of birds that we need to start talking about.